All right, it's 10 o'clock, so we shall start, get the ball rolling right now. We've got all our speakers in the house already. Welcome everyone to the Tuesday Talk Live 23rd edition. Can you believe that we are already so far ahead in this? And right now, as you can see from my very, very funky, colorful background, we are broadcasting live from somewhere different. This is the Tribe's Jazz and Reggae Music Lounge at the Grand Margarita Hotel, Kuching. Don't you just love the colors and all this very unique design? There's an eye there I see above me as well. So apparently, this is the one and only underground entertainment outlet in Kuching, and I would dare say maybe in Sarawak. And it is actually literally underground. You actually have to walk down, and it's kind of like the jazz bars that you see in movies, exactly like that. So there's no entrance fees. They've got a very private, there's one private room if you don't want to mingle with everyone else. But of course, during this very uncertain and flip-flop times, maybe it's best that we stay at home. But when it is all safe and healthier to go out, keep this place in mind, and let's all come here for a bit of fun maybe next time with jazz and reggae. Now, I'd like to talk to you about the Sarawak Sling that they are promoting as well. As you can see here, it's slightly small, but you can see on the screen right now, they have this very unique cocktail. It's called the Sarawak Sling Signature Cocktail. So if you get one, you actually get the cup that it comes in with, right? So you get the cup, and then when you order the second one, you can top up. And this is specially brewed here to accompany your jazz and reggae music here at the lounge. And the next one is the Insiders Club. Well, yeah, I don't have the visual here, but it is a free and user-friendly app that you can use to actually get very special exclusive deals. So once you register on the app itself, you're actually a member and you get members-only deals, and that includes points when you buy F&B items like the Sarawak Sling. And when you get points, you can actually redeem a lot of things with the hotel. So this applies to all the 4 SCDC hotels in Kuching. Yep, in Kuching. Okay, so those are the things. And thank you so much to Grand Margarita Hotel and Tribes for hosting us today. This is the first time that we're going off-site. Usually I'm just at home with my books at the back or in my office, but today we're somewhere funky, so that's pretty cool. Now, I'd like to share with you something else. This is called the TTLX Summit Tourism Edition. This is a conference. This is a hybrid conference with the theme, Your Itinerary for Success. Get it? Itinerary tourism. All right. So this is going to be on the 15th to 16th of July at the Waterfront Hotel Kuching. This is going to be a hybrid event. It means that there's going to be a physical element and also a virtual element. So you can register either as a physical attendee or in-person attendee, or you can register virtually. But if you register as an in-person attendee, you will get goodie bags. You get like this mug, and you get other things that you will have from our sponsors. So I'd like to look at a few of the topic highlights. You can see adaptive leadership at these very, very different times that we are in. You need to be adaptive. And so we're going to have a very good speaker for that one. We've got the 6 thinking hats. If you know Edward De Bono, if you've read the book, this is from Edward De Bono, and we're going to have a speaker from the De Bono Institute himself. And the other one is the post-pandemic tourist. I think a lot of people maybe don't realize, or maybe you realize that the tourists before the pandemic and after the pandemic, they're completely different. So you need to be aware what those differences are. So these are some of the topics that we're going to be covering. There's going to be more and we'll be updating. So follow Place Borneo's Facebook page, and then you'll get updates. The registration is not open yet. So when it is open, you'll get the first information if you follow the page. All right, so those of you on Zoom and those of you on YouTube, you can ask your questions. As usual, there's a Q&A button at the bottom of Zoom, and on YouTube, you just type in your questions and then we'll be able to pick it up from there. Now, today's topic, racial disharmony. Sarawak, si Ngelala. All right, so if anyone knows what that means, si Ngelala, I'll go back to that, but you can type your answer if you know. We're blessed with great racial dynamics, but why is that? Why is it that we're a bit different from some of the other states and they don't quite enjoy what we are enjoying right now? And is it really that good here? Or are we just a bit ignorant on some of the racial issues that we're having right here? So today, that's what we're going to be talking about. And we're going to talk about the good ones. Well, obviously, we have more of the good ones. And we do also have some of the negative points here in Sarawak. And we will also address that. And we've got our speakers here. I'm just going to remove myself from the big screen right now. Yep, so we have all the speakers here, as you can see. The first one I'd like to introduce is Kabiruddin Pulaver. He is a member of the Angkatan Zaman Mansang Sarawak, or AZAM, if you guys are aware of that. But currently he is working as a senior marketing and business development executive with a professional knowledge institute based in Kuala Lumpur. He was actively involved with youth programs to address youth issues through workshops and also talks that he conducted. And he is also my classmate, my actual classmate and family friend from primary school right up to secondary school. So welcome to the show, Kabi. Thanks for joining us. The next one, we've got Fiona Lulu Jaina. She is an English tutor. She is actually our English tutor in Place Borneo office. We have a weekly English class just to refresh our English, you know. And she's our teacher, so I should call her teacher. But her background is actually psychology. And she says she loves to study people. Interesting. And the reason why she's doing that is to find meaning in things and also to understand life a bit. That's interesting. So welcome to the show, Fiona. Thanks for joining us. And last but not least, we've got Emerick Teo, partner at CH Tay and Partners. He has vast experiences in handling highly contentious civil and commercial litigation matters. And he appears on many occasions at the High Court and Court of Appeal in Sarawak. And he also advises many corporate clients in Sarawak. He is my childhood friend, but we haven't met for like 18 years, I think. And we just met this year. And it just so happened because his boat Tobacco broke down and then he had to go on our boat. And they're like, oh, hi, Emerick. So hi, welcome to the show, Emerick, and thanks for joining us today.
Hi, everybody.
Hi. All right. So as usual, I'm just going to give the speakers a few minutes for them to maybe introduce themselves, and then we'll go right on to the questions. For those of you guys, just think of any questions that you have and you can start typing them in, and then as we go along, we're going to pick them up. Okay. So I'm going to start with Kabi. Go ahead, Kabiruddin.
Hi. As Mona mentioned, my name is Kabiruddin, but you can call me Kabir. And I am a Sarawakian. Even some of you might think me as someone from the other side based on my look. But I am a Sarawakian. I moved to KL 3 years ago. After I get married, I get a job here, so I moved to KL. So I'll be sharing a bit of what my experience on racial harmony or disharmony in Sarawak.
All right. Nice and sweet. Okay, next one, Fiona, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Fiona. So as you know that I am an English teacher, I'm an English tutor, and I also do works mainly in communication. Sometimes I do social media marketing also, but last few months I've been selling sambal. So the sambal is called sambal nerit. So we'll see later on what nerit means. It's also a very interesting Sarawakian Malay language. So that is who I am. I'm a Roman Catholic by religion, and I'm looking forward to talk about racial harmony or even disharmony in Sarawak. Thank you.
Thanks, teacher Fiona. All right, next one, Emerick. Go ahead, Emerick.
Hi. Yeah, like Mona said earlier, I'm a lawyer. I am half Sarawakian, half West Malaysian. My mom is from West Malaysia. But personally, I've been born and bred in Sarawak, except for I think half of my teenage years where I did it overseas. Yeah, and I'm pleased to meet you all today.
That's it. Okay, thanks, Emerick. Right, so we're gonna talk more after this, and yeah, you guys can go ahead after this to elaborate further. But before that, I'm just gonna go back to Sarawak Sik Ngelala. So what does that mean? So Sik Ngelala is actually we don't recognize. So when we say you Sik Ngelala someone or a family member, you don't recognize them, maybe because we haven't seen them for quite some time. So in Sarawak, we don't quite get a lot of racial disharmony, although we get some, and that's why we say Sarawak Sik Ngelala racial disharmony. But let's see today what the speakers are going to talk about. So before we start, let's before we go deeper into a lot of the topic, let's just go on the basic surface. What is your ethnicity? Let's talk a bit more of your background. Fiona, maybe you want to start this.
Okay, sure, thanks. So I am a Bitayu. Okay, I'm a Bitayu, and from my father's side, is from Bau, and my mother is a Biatah Bitayu. So as you know, Bitayu have a lot of different dialects. Okay, so apart from that, I grew up I was born in Cebu, but I grew up in Kuching. I went to a very Chinese oriented kindergarten. So, and I was taught by Catholic nuns. So I have a very, I'm very thankful for the experience in shaping who I am today. Right, that's my ethnicity of Hidayu.
Thanks, Fiona. Emerick, do you want to talk a bit more about your ethnicity?
I am Chinese by ethnicity, but I prefer to call myself Malaysian rather than Chinese. I think growing up, I went to a government school, so I always had friends from many races. Yeah, I try to consider myself Malaysian, Sarawakan first. I don't know whether it's true Sarawakan first, but generally Malaysian lah. I try not to focus too much on my ethnicity.
Okay, good stuff. And last but not least, Kabe? You're still muted, I think.
Oh, sorry.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. I'm an Indian Muslim, which means I was born as an Indian Muslim. I've not converted from an Indian to a Muslim, because this is what I always get. If people ask me, what race are you? Obviously, people say I'm Indian, but they don't know I'm a Muslim or a Hindu or a Christian. So I usually will say I'm an Indian Muslim. But I'm a Sarawakian first, and then Malaysian second.
Oh, you're gonna get into trouble for saying that. All right. So for those of you who are wondering why don't we have a Malay here, so I'm the Malay in the house. So we were supposed to have a Malay, my Malay friend, but she had some health problems in KL, so she can't join us, and would have been really fantastic. But yeah, my name is Mona Abdul Manap. So I am the Malay here, and I was born a Malay and I'm a Muslim. So now here we have actually food provided by our sponsor, the venue sponsor, and I can't eat because I'm fasting. And this is just, like a mock-up. So I can't even drink coffee right now. So yeah, so that's for your knowledge. So today we're going to talk about all these different races that we have. Now, let's start with do you remember their first friend of a different ethnicity? And if you did have a friend like such, did you have to sort of accommodate any differences, in lifestyle or in what you do, in what they do? Did you have to tolerate certain things and do things differently yourself so that, you guys can be friends longer? Who wants to take this up first? Kabe, you look like you wanted to say something.
Okay. My first friend when I was in kindergarten was a Chinese. He's a Chinese. So during kindergarten years, I usually go to his house to play video game. And I was 6 years old at that time,
Wow.
So his house just nearby. And then usually his parents will serve food. So usually it's the other way around. It's them who accommodate me. They know that I'm a Muslim, so they'll make sure that the food that's served is not is a halal food. Usually they'll buy it from outside and then they'll serve me the food. So it's the other way around.
So they accommodated you because they know that you have sensitivities when it comes to food. Wow. Yeah. Okay. So how about you? What did you have to accommodate anything to fit into their differences?
I think not that time, but when I growing up, usually when we have open house, and my family have friends from other races like Chinese, Indian, and so on. So for Indian particularly, we will make sure that we don't serve anything which is like beef rendang or beef curry, you know,
Right.
to accommodate them. So this is what we have to do. I have to understand.
Okay. Wow, that's good. That reminds me actually of something that I did before. It wasn't accommodating, but I had a friend, a Chinese friend. We went to tuition together, and every time before tuition, so this would be weekly. She must have her kway chap. So I would have to go with her to eat kway chap. I mean, I don't eat kway chap, but then I'll just sit there. I eat my ABC. It was at Pokong Park. So then she'll have her kway chap, and I'll be saying, what are those things? And then she'll have that. So those are things that, a lot of people are not willing to sit together with people who are eating pork. But that's something that, for me, it's okay, I'm not eating it. All right, Fiona, how about you? What was your first friend of a different ethnicity?
My first friend of a different ethnicity, Malay,
Okay.
and Iban.
Okay.
And I had a lot of friends from different background. I have always been exposed to friends from different ethnicities. I don't exactly have a close Bidayo best friend when I was young. And I remember particularly our Chinese friend also knows how to speak in Malay Sarawak. So we tend to use that language all the time in school. And one particular memory I had was back when we were living in the police barracks in Jalan Barudin, and our neighbor is Malay and the other is Bidayu, and we always would have this feast at the veranda. We will have a meal of the sago starch, linut, and then everyone will be eating happily together, and the moms will be gossiping with each other, and then the kids will be playing, and then those are very, very nice memories of mixing with friends from different cultural backgrounds. But I don't think we really pay attention into the differences. The only thing that we usually see or take regards with is the fact that our friends, our Muslim friends, they cannot eat pork, and that's it. That's about it. We don't really bother that much about the differences. So that is my memory of my childhood being mixing with other ethnicities.
And that's quite interesting. You see, for as kids, we don't actually quite bother with this. We don't even care about the differences that we have. It's when you actually grow up slightly more, and then you realize, why is it like this, and then you start to actually focus on the differences instead of the similarities. As kids, you're like, okay, whatever, okay, you can't eat pork, okay, don't eat. So but as adults, you make that a big issue, right? So that's quite interesting. Emerick, how about you? Who was your first friend of a different ethnicity?
I think it was Nicholas Kana, if I remember the name.
Wow.
But I don't know. I honestly don't know what ethnicity he was. Back in my primary school days, we as kids, we didn't care.
Yep.
We play guli, we play football, people angkat ikan. You don't ask each other, you Cina ka, you Melayu ka.
Yeah.
The only thing is I know who the Malays are, the Malay Muslims are, because everybody goes to agama class. Everyone else goes to moral class.
Yeah.
Okay. So everyone who goes to moral class, the non-Muslims, you don't generally go around asking each other, Bapa siapa, and you just play together. You have your fights, your disagreements, you have fun, you play football, you go on what we call venture last time, go and look for disused ponds to take a bath. So
yeah,
it was fun. It was fun. I cannot, like I said earlier, I don't really know what ethnicity they were. But does it matter? That's what I always ask myself.
Exactly. So as kids, we actually didn't care, about all these things, and yet somehow we were taught to care about our differences, about race, about differences in religion. Why, and we were taught it in a negative way. we're not even taught to accept them in so many ways, right? And what was it like going to school with friends of different races? And a lot of you, I think, went to government schools. So there's a lot of, school systems or the education. So how was it like that you went to school with all these other races? Emmerich?
It was, for lack of a better word, it was normal. I mean, it's microcosm of what Malaysia is, what Sarawak is. Obviously, in government school, I think there's at my time there was less Chinese representation because of the vernacular schools. But I had fun. Accommodation-wise, I think the only thing that really stands out is during the Ramadan month, bulan puasa, then you don't eat in front of your Malay friends lah. You go canteen or something lah. You know, that's about it. Everything else was among my classmates was pretty fun lah. Was nice, was chill. I don't remember anything negative standing out. It's very harmonious. Even the teachers, you don't really see the teacher as this Chinese teacher is a Malay teacher. It's a teacher lah. You know, there's strict teachers, there's sporting teachers, there's chill teachers, there's cool teachers, but you don't really race. At primary school level, race is not really a factor. And then I went to for secondary school. I went to a semi boarding school. I was not a boarding student, I was a day student, but there the representation in terms of Chinese was even less. So and there were more Malays there. So I mean, it was still fun. It was still okay. It's just that I get called names from time to time lah.
Oh, okay.
Based on stereotypes but it's okay. You just shrug it off and you carry along.
Those are kiddish things that we do. We call names among our friends.
Right.
But that again is also, it's picked up from adults. How did they learn to call these names? Especially these stereotypical names, and it's race related. Usually you call names based on the father's name. You make fun. Like me, they call me Arnab. Because my father's name is Manap. So then those kind of things, fun things. But race stuff, I think those things are taught. Right, so interesting. Again, you mentioned that we didn't care, and in those days the canteen did not have to close during Ramadan. Everything is okay. We've got our willpower. We will not break our fast just because people are selling food at canteen, right? So that stuff. Great. Kabi, how about you?
Yeah, I agree with Emmerich. For me, I didn't really feel the differences when we are in school, because during that time we didn't really see people by race or religion, so we can hang out together. Even like you mentioned that we can go to a Chinese shop where they sell mee kolok, which is non-halal, and also they sell like mee Jawa or nasi lemak. But we can still sit down in one table and sit together and eat, even though they're eating a non-halal food. But if you see it over here in West Malaysia, it's very hard for you to find that type of shop, So during this one, all of this we learned during our school years, So growing up, we were like being more tolerant to all these things,
And how about you, Fiona?
Okay, I'd like to share something about when I was in secondary school. Even though I went to a public school, from Form 1 to Form 3, we were actually segregated to the non-Muslim and the Muslim classes. So they were for my class at that time, we don't have any Muslims in our class. So the Muslims were grouped in a different class.
Oh.
So throughout the 3 years, we were not mixed with any other Muslim friends, but all the non-Muslims are in one class. So we have we have Iban, Bidayu, Chinese, but we don't have Muslims. So it's the Pendidikan Moral class and the Pendidikan and the Agama class. So we were segregated. So I do not know exactly why it was done, and I rather not speculate. But thankfully, when I was in Form 4 and Form 5, then the classes are mixed. So we get to mix with our Muslim friends, and I think because we were friends, we have our own groups, cliques. Since we were in Form 1, so by then the groups are kind of separated by race, by religion. But the nice thing was we were actually able to mix together at one point. And I remember in Form 5, after our SPM exam, and also there was this, during the Hari Raya celebration, we would actually rent a van. We rented a van, and everyone jumped into the van, and then we went out the whole Matang area for Ngabang for Raya visiting. So it was really fun. It was a really, really nice memory. All of us, Chinese, Dayaks, and the Malays, we went together for Raya visiting. So that was a very, very nice memory.
But that's kind of odd though that they separated, in Form 1 and until Form 4. By then you have formed your sort of close-knit friends, and then it would be a bit tough for people to come in, although it is possible. So that's kind of odd, but I wouldn't want to, as you said, I wouldn't want to speculate why they did that. And in terms of like education, in terms of how sometimes there are differences in like results and where you go or where you head on to based on your results. Was there any thing that like struck at based on your experience in school? Emerick, maybe you had a story on this.
Sorry?
In terms of like the systemic results in exams and stuff like that. Did you say you had an experience on that? Oh, hello, Emerick's son.
Yeah. Sorry, ignore him.
That's all right.
Mind him. I think the first time I realized the difference between me and my other classmates was really brought home to me was, I think, after the UPSR results were released, and I had 4 A's, and I didn't get any offers, and my classmates with 3 A's, 1 B, which even I know is not so good result, I wouldn't say inferior, not so good, they got an offer to go to Mara, for example. So this is the first time I had to actually ask my father, hey, why like this, so that was my first awareness that we are different. Previously, to me, everything, we are all the same. We all like football, we all hate this teacher, we all don't like homework. But this is the first time that I realized that people are treated differently. There is unequal treatment.
And how did that shape, your future, if it did have any impact on your future?
I think this may be a bit sensitive, so I apologize in advance. But for me personally, it has colored my perceptions of achievements by I would say a certain ethnicity. Because when you see the media stories and all that, they achieve great success, you can't help but think, did you get a leg up? Did you get assistance? I try not to do it, but subconsciously, that little voice is always there. And I think it's not good. It's not right.
And that's kind of sad. And imagine there's so many people like you who experience the same thing, and probably it's okay because you've got a lot of maybe Malay friends or Bumi friends, and so it did color your perception a bit of them, but it's not that bad. So when you get to an extremist or someone with someone very emotional, so then you get all these people who strike up and then go on these rallies and
I
stuff
want to make
like
this
that.
clear. It's not it's nothing personal. I mean, it was this is like you were saying, it's a systemic issue. It stems from the system we find ourselves in. My interpersonal relationships have always been very good. If my friend achieves success, and obviously it's my friend, I know how much he puts in, what work he does, that's fine. I don't get that little voice in my head, but I'm talking about people I don't know personally, and they may have gotten the award or the achievement based on who you know rather than what did you do. Then that gives me cause for doubt. But as to my friends, people I know personally, that rarely ever happens.
Yes, understand. And especially people who went through your experience, and for example, if they're hiring someone, and if that someone is of a certain ethnicity, and you had all the certificates and all that, then you'll be wondering, did you really get this of your own accord, or did you get like a special quota, leeway for that? So I think that actually affects certain parts of our economy because of that.
For me, it's always been, I think after Form 5 in Malaysia, we have a separate track system. I don't know whether it still exists. There's basically Form 6 and there's matriculation.
Yep.
Correct? Now, rightly or wrongly, the perception, my personal perception that I've heard based on hearsay is that matriculation is easier. Okay, it's not as tough as Form 6, rightly or wrongly. So of course, I think it's very rare for a non-Muslim to get into matriculation, because then a matriculation further, I think it's only about a year. Form 6 is 2 years, and you get so it's basically a fast track into a university, a local university where your fees are subsidized. Again, there's a lot of advantages there, but I think I should not go further into it. Suffice to say that this is one example of the doubt that surfaces from time to time.
And that's surprising that you brought that up. And that's exactly the reason why I did not want to go to metrics, even though I was eligible. I didn't even apply for it because I had this in mind already, and I knew that people are going to say, "Oh, she got in because she's Malay." And then even if I'm really smart, even if you get all A's or anything in metric, people say, "Hey, it's because it's easy." So I actually did Form 6, of which I almost failed all my subjects because it was so tough. But at least people still say, "Oh yeah, okay, Form 6 is tough. It's okay if you didn't pass everything." So it actually made me decide on that because of this perception of metrics.
But I just want to say one last thing. I mean, there's a systemic issue, and then there is the personal issue. When, for example, when it comes to you, you're my friend, I know you, right? Even if you had gone to metrics, can I fault you? No, because everybody ultimately decides based on their own, we could call it a basis of self-preservation. What is to your benefit? So if the system is set up so it's in your benefit, no one can fault you for choosing to do so, right? Can I? Maybe there is cause for the system. The system should change for the better. But until and unless the system changes, can anyone fault you for choosing something that is more convenient?
It's there. I might as well use it, right?
Yeah. So that is also another conflict on the personal side.
Yeah. And how about you, Fiona? Being an English tutor, I'm sure you've had experiences with a lot of students. What were your experiences?
I recall one incident where my students were a little bit skeptical of the Chinese people. It's mainly because of the area that they are living in, and then because the school is predominantly Malay Muslim. So it's quite rare for them to mix with other races. And I remember, and that time, this racial tension was actually brewing around that time. So with the birthday thing and all that, and then and I was actually quite disappointed to hear that from the students, but I cannot blame them. We cannot blame them for thinking that way because they were exposed to this kind of negativities. But then I told them, I understand that you are having that perception, but you need to change your perspective. Let me share with you the kindness I have received from these races. And I'm not going to say that, okay, the Malays are bad people, because I have received great kindness from the Malay people, my Malay friends. I have really plenty of close Malay friends, and also from the Chinese people themselves. And I told them there was this time where I had to do a part-time job and I had to go home very late because of a late shift. And my Chinese friend offered me to stay at her place so that I don't have to drive too far, going back home late for my safety. So she asked me to stay at her place. And during Chinese New Year, her mother gave me ang pao. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, so I want to show that to them, that I have received kindness from people from different races, and it's not right for you to put people in one basket and call them rotten eggs, for example, or you know what I mean, because there are kindness from people. So you just need to go out and experience it. That's all. and you need to know, and it's as their teacher, I should tell them that. I need to tell them that so that they know, so
Yep.
that they can hear from a different perspective.
I think the key word here is you need to teach them that they are different people, regardless of the race and religion. They are bad and good people in all the religion or race or, ethnicity, nationalities, everything. They are jerks and they are good people. So, and that happens across the board. So it's not because of a certain race, but sometimes at a young age, we are taught that, oh, this certain race, they are bound to do this one, better be careful with them. So that's the thing that we need to avoid. At a very young age, you actually box people according to their skin color. And that's the part where I think our education system, sometimes it may have a bit of that, subconsciously, we're actually doing that to some of our students. Kabe, did you have any experience on this in school? Or in uni, maybe? Yeah.
In what area? What?
In terms of, being discriminated upon in terms of education or opportunities, perhaps?
I don't really get those types of discrimination, but in terms of other discrimination, yes, I had.
Okay.
For example, being an Indian Muslim, which is a minority in Sarawak.
Yep.
So usually Indian in Sarawak, usually other races will call us as Tambi, So which is like a common thing for them. But if you ask an Indian, is it a common thing? Is it a norm for us to being called Indian Tambi is okay? For me, it's not okay actually, because it is similar to what West Malaysian calling Indian as Keling, It's like you name calling them. It's a racist slur actually.
Yeah.
Even though Tambi in India, in Tamil language, is means as brother, a small brother,
Younger brother.
But in Sarawak itself, I don't think people will address anyone as little brother, young brother. So for me, that's the main issue for us Indian, like people calling us Tambi, So even when I grew up, when I was a kid, my neighbor is a Malay. So when we playing outside, this lady, old lady will call us Tambi, So from that moment, we will know like this is not calling us in a good way,
Okay.
So I think this experience still going on for us here in Sarawak.
And I think that one is partly because of the knowledge of people of the very minority races that we have in Sarawak, even of, like, for example, the Penans. There are certain, different ethnic of Penans or orang asli, and in West Malaysia they have the Sakai, but then you call people Sakai if you've never been to a place, you call Sakai Najwa. So that's those things people don't realize is actually very derogatory. So then you actually say that, and because you're used to it, so it's kind of like that with Tambi. People are used to calling Indians Tambi because they're used to it. They heard their parents, to them it's okay. So I think this is part of like education of the different races that we have, especially of the very minority case, like you're Indians. You got, I think, only 1% in maybe less, I don't know how many percent if you got Indians in Sarawak. So I think it's very important for even in school to have a subject on races and the differences and what is actually a slur or very rude to them and what is not. And I think that's where we had a chat with Ashwin Narayanan the other day on the Indian society in Sarawak, and he said it's okay for people to call him Tambi because to him in Sarawak Tambi is sort of like Indian lah. That's how the Sarawakian call. But there are some who don't. Why don't you just call Indian, orang India? Why do you need to call them a certain name, right? So to him it's okay. To some people it's not okay. So to be safe, someone from a different ethnicity, you should actually just call them the formal name, the formal race name. Right. And why do you think that in Sarawak we are able to do this? We live like, what Fiona said, we actually live very peacefully with all our friends. We've got so many intermarriages, and I think that's one of the reasons. So in one family, you could have a Muslim family celebrating Raya. You can have a Chinese family celebrating Chinese New Year, and also Christmas and Gawai. So that's probably one of the reasons. But what are the reasons you think is the reason why we can actually live so harmoniously compared to, I would say, West Malaysian? I think in West Malaysia, the race divide is slightly bigger. And there's a bit more, I think, animosity between the races. And especially because there's a big group of Malays there or Muslims. And there's some sort of a friction sometimes, especially when it comes to election and stuff. Anyone want to give their thought on this?
For me, in Sarawak, we have been living like this for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
I can say we have a high level of tolerance compared to other states in Malaysia.
Mm.
But we must be careful also what we can say as an achievement of privilege that we are having now. Because right now you can see in social media right now, people posting racist comments, hate speech, For instance, recently there's an issue on Pandelela Rinong, she just won a gold medal in an international event, and one of the senior minister commented something, and then when you look at the social media on this posting on this thing, you can see a lot of racist remarks, towards this. So I think we should be careful of this. Because we have been tolerant all this while, and because of this one thing, it can be like break all these things that we have achieved before.
Yeah, I do agree with you fully, and I think social media is a very dangerous thing if we don't know how to manage it well. And that issue was actually it's a very, 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 very small issue, and probably it was a misspoken thing. But then people can twist it around, because she's Kedai, or because she's of a certain race, or the minister is of another race, kind of thing. So it is actually not the case, but some people may be affected by, like they suddenly, it's because of that. So that's dangerous. Why else? Fiona, do you have any other ideas on this? Why is it that we are better at this than others?
I think like Kabir said, we had a long history, shared history among the people here, and I would say it also it was also a tremendous help by the school system. I think most of the schools in the urban areas, so that is where a lot of our leaders also went to school together, and then they worked together, and then they built Sarawak together. And then from there it becomes a norm. And when Tok Nan says something like we eat together, you play together, you cari amoy sama-sama, it's really true. It's how we live. It's been the way we live since forever. So I think from there we keep that spirit, the love of neighbor spirit. Okay, I would say, let me go back to what Kabir said about being called Tambi in Indian. I'm guilty of that as well. I apologize, and I'm guilty of that also, because it is a norm. And just like when the Chinese people call the Dayaks as Lakya, and it also sounds offensive to the Dayaks. It sounds derogatory as well. But when you translate Lakya, it's not offensive at all. And I also noticed when the Malays, for example, the Indians, probably we can hear this in Malaysia as general. We call it sounds offensive if we call the Chinese as China. But when they speak in Malay, they will say Chinese. You sometimes you will read this in the social media comments. Tengok pakcik Chinese tu,
Yes.
For example, kalau compared to when you call it tengok pakcik Cina tu, It sounds different, so it's funny.
I think it's the intonation as well.
Yeah.
How
so,
you say it, yeah, the context.
Yeah, so I think the context and the way we hear these words and the connotation it brings by saying the words. So at the end of the day, it's the spirit of loving your neighbor. You know that when you want to say something, even when I want to point out something that is, it sounds like I am defending my group of people, but I'm definitely not the representative for the BDF people. Okay, let me be clear on that. But if I want to say something that seems like going against another group of people, another group of race, it's not something that is easy to say because of the fear of offending the other party. I do not want to offend my friends from other religion or other race. So I'd rather not say it. But sometimes I would point that out based on my own experience. I can say that each and every races, we have our own habits. We have our own personalities. It is something that is shared because it's a shared culture. It's the way we live. So we tend to act this way. This race tend to act this way. That race tend to act that way. It's only because it's of the way we live. So I think it depends on you how you want to say it. If you want to take offense in everything, you will be offended.
Yep.
But if you want to focus on what, for example, if you're in a team, if you're working on a project, what do you want to focus at? Do you want to focus at the goal?
Yep.
Or do you want to focus on your differences?
Yep.
If you want to have a great Sarawak, what do you want to focus at? The goal is to have a great Sarawak. And we, aside from the differences, which is always there, it exists. We're humans. We are broken, but we are also special. We are created like that. So we focus on our goal instead of our differences.
Yep. And I think that goes back to, again, like what Emerick said, there's certain things that colored our perception of the other races, maybe some of our experiences when we were younger or when we were kids. So that could also actually tint, our decision making and our relationship with our future colleagues, maybe, or future people that you actually deal with. Emerick, how about you? What do you think? Why is it that Sarawakians are able to live more harmoniously with each other? You muted. Wait. You want to unmute yourself? Okay, right.
Thanks for the question. I think going back to what Fiona said, just to expand a bit more, I think we're very lucky that in Sarawak, our state government has always been very inclusive and very tolerant. All credit to them. Again, this is just my personal view. I've not stayed in West Malaysia for very long. I think on and off for a total of 2 years while doing my studies. But what I read in the media, the news and the TV and all that, the government there or the political parties there are very racially exclusive. They always talk about representing the interests of only one ethnicity, and then there's and then when they speak to the target base, they use a lot of rhetoric. They play to the emotional appeal. So it makes the existing problem worse, a lot worse. And I think there's a famous saying, I'll paraphrase, but basically what it says that if you repeat a lie often enough, people will believe it's true.
Yep.
So when people get absolutely just hammered with this sort of rhetoric, and then they start to believe it, because and it colors even more their perceptions of other racial groups, which they do not see and interact with on a daily basis. So that rhetoric, those lies, become part of their understanding, of their perception of what people are and how they're supposed to act, how they're supposed to respond. In Sarawak, thankfully, like I said, all credit to the state government. They don't use such measures. They are very inclusive. They try to be fair. Obviously, there are still flaws. I mean, it's been pointed out a lot on social media. But I think compared to West Malaysia, well, nothing. They're basically all credit to them. And that has given us a base from which that we can approach each other as some sort of equals. There's mutual respect for each other. There is not just bare tolerance. I mean, tolerance, I think at the end of the day, it requires willpower to sustain. It will eventually break down. There has to be this understanding and respect for each other, not just tolerance.
Yeah, I like that. Tolerance is actually the minimal that you actually need to actually live with another race. What we need right now is actually to accept them as equals, or perceived as the same. Everyone is the same. It's not just you're tolerating the differences.
I give you an analogy. If you had a housemate, let's say you had a housemate, you're single, not married, no kids, and your housemate. You're this housemate who had very bad hygiene, very a nuisance. Then you tolerate that housemate. That's tolerate. But if you had a housemate who pitch in, do chores that you actually can hang out with and talk with, that is a mutual respect and understanding thing. There's a very big difference between the two roles.
Yep, exactly. And I think a lot of people probably use the word tolerant maybe a bit too freely, because that's actually the bare minimum that you need to live with other races. What you need is actually you need to respect and accept them. You need to accept them as one of your own. And Emmerich, you mentioned about the importance of having a uni language or one language to unite us all. Did you want to talk about that? I thought that was very interesting.
And this goes back actually to understanding, because first, before you can accept somebody, you must understand them. What makes them different? Where is our sameness? Where is our difference? Where are our differences? And in order to do that, to understand someone, you must be able to communicate with them.
Yep.
And if you don't speak the same language, how are you supposed to communicate with other people?
Yep.
Your fellow citizens, so to speak. So to me, because I went to a national school, government school, I early on, I think I mastered Bahasa Sarawak even before Bahasa Baku lah. Because that was what you used to talk in class. But Bahasa Baku, I think, is one subject only. Bahasa Sarawak is used all the time. So that was my de facto national language. And because of that, I was able to talk to a lot of people from a diverse range of backgrounds. Sorry, I just lost track on that.
You told us a story about you being in Singapore. Did you want to tell us that one? I thought that was interesting.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Thanks for helping me get back on track. Yes, so I did my Form 4 and Form 5 in Singapore, and so I can do a basic comparison of the education systems. In Singapore, what happens is everybody generally will study in English, and then all ethnicities will go off for their respective mother tongue classes. So the Chinese will go Mandarin, the Malays will do their Malay, the Indians will do the Tamil, Urdu, or Bengali. There are many choices.
Wow.
I was brought up speaking English at home, so I didn't. I don't know Mandarin apart from I can order food. That's about it. So I won't starve. So I was a Chinese doing Malay with the Malays in Singapore. And then it got me thinking. We need a language, a national language. We need to be proud of it. Disregard what the haters say that it's useless outside of Malaysia. It's your national language.
Yeah.
When the nation was formed in 1957 or 1963, which interpretation you believe, the founding fathers chose Bahasa Malaysia or Bahasa Melayu. I cannot remember what it's called. It's switched back and forth. BM as the national language. Just learn it. Be competent with it. Be fluent with it. No one's asking you to bersajak, berpantun, berpuisi.
Yep.
Just be competent to be able to use it to talk to an uncle, the market, a makcik at the store, whoever. So and drawing on from my own childhood experiences, school is one of the first places where we are exposed to other people outside of our own cultural background and community. That's where we meet them for the first time. We get to know them. It's a very important bit of our upbringing. And for that reason, I cannot agree with vernacular schools being maintained.
Okay, that's something different, I would say, from someone usually from the Chinese community. They are very adamant about the vernacular schools. And I think it's more so in the West Malaysian context. And I do agree. I think language is the key uniting factor here, because that's the basic need that for you to actually communicate with each other. Like you said, we don't have to be really good at it. And that's why some people actually learn Mandarin. Like me, I want to learn Mandarin so that I can communicate with a lot of my Chinese business partners, because there's more business people who are Chinese. And so I want to be able to speak their lingo. And so I want to learn Chinese or Hokkien. So that's exactly the same with, I think, racial harmony. We need to all speak one language, even though it's broken. At least you're not like chicken and duck talking to each other and one can't understand the other.
To me, it goes a bit deeper. I mean, Mandarin should be optional. I mean, it is optional
Yep.
for you. But what I'm saying is there should be no, I say this as a Chinese myself, someone is culturally Chinese. There should not be any need for you to learn anything other than BM for use in Malaysia and English to communicate with, let's say, outside Malaysia. I mean, those are the two basic languages. There should not be any. I mean, the fact that you say that you have to learn Mandarin to communicate with your business partners more, that I think it's kind of tragic for me. I don't know Mandarin at all. I had to pick it up as well. I think that it is important that we as Sarawakians and Malaysians pay more attention to DM. And I say this for all the Chinese out there.
Yeah, I think that's quite interesting, and maybe we can table this to some of the ministries and put in our proposal for what we think. Now, I have one question that's coming in from, I think it's from YouTube, or maybe it's from Zoom or Facebook. Do you watch any of the other like Bollywood movies or Chinese movies? If you're not Indian, do you watch Chinese movies, or Korean movies, other movies as well, or any Dayak movies? Right now we have a lot of Dayak movies even, or listen to their songs, or even eat their food, the different food that you have. Do you actually indulge in those things? Kabe? I think you're still muted, is it?
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
For me, I grew up watching Cantonese sitcoms and Chinese movie. I still can remember when those days when there's no Astro, So every day during the weekdays at 6 p.m., all of my siblings will sit TV to watch this Chinese sitcom, So that's the thing that I grew up watching. And even sometimes during Chinese New Year, I will wait. We will have this new Chinese movies coming up during Chinese New Year, so we'll wait and see those movies.
I think that's without it goes without saying, because all these Jackie Chan and the kung fu movies, they're really so exciting to watch. But how about Malay movies or Dayak movies? It's less popular, but would you watch them, or do you actually look out for them to actually watch them?
For me, Malay drama is a no for me. But Malay movies, I watch.
Yes.
There's a lot of good movies like I can't remember some of the names. By Yasmin Ahmad, she produced a lot of good Malay movies. Which portray what a Malaysian movie should be like. That's for me is a real Malay movie.
Cool. Yeah, that's a great example. How about you, Fiona? Do you watch any other movies or listen to their songs?
Yes, I enjoy listening to Iban songs sometimes. There's an Iban singer called, his name is Jenny Tan. I really like her. She has really funny songs. And I also enjoy, I grew up with Cantonese drama also. So I think a lot of my people from our generation can speak one or two Cantonese phrases like "Lemo Kao Toa,"
Yes.
There are actually very funny Dayak movies if you search for them on YouTube.
Really?
And then I'm a huge fan of Kak Limah Balik Rumah movie by Muhammad Khalid. I love all of his movies. As a matter of fact, that movie is probably in my top 5 most favorite movies of all time.
Mhm. Wow.
From other, the Hollywood movies like The Big Lebowski. The Big Lebowski is my favorite movie. And Kantu Kak Limah probably number 2. I've watched it many times already. I really love the jokes.
Hantu Kak Lima.
Yeah, there are some jokes that they do that depicts Malaysian um, things that Malaysians in the kampong to go through, and I really like it. I really love it. It's very it's movie for the folks. So things like he's waiting for government subsidy for his cows,
Yeah.
things like that. So I really love those kind of movies.
Does it actually teach you about the differences in the races? Like there are certain things that you didn't know, or the Malays they do this, or the Malays they believe in this. By watching these movies, did they actually, teach you slightly more?
I'm not sure if I'm not sure. I cannot say that they really teach me something new, but
Mhm.
um, it is something that is acknowledged, something that
Mm.
in everyday life. It's something that is knowledge. Whereas if you watch all this very mainstream Malay drama that is not realistic at all, there's
Mhm.
nothing you learn from it. So, but
Yeah.
this kind of movies that shows everyday activities of the Malaysian people, you see this is so relatable. I feel so
Yeah.
good watching this movie, and then like Yasmin Ahmad's movies, you feel this sense of friendship
Mm.
because it reminds you of your own friendship with friends from other races and
Mm.
different backgrounds. So these are the things that I think, especially the young people, they should watch this kind of movies and learn from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I grew up with the movie Meteor Garden. So I think all of us watched that and we sort of memorized all the songs in school. I don't know, Merrick, if you watched that, but all the girls were like going crazy with the guys in Meteor Garden.
I think this is one of the benefits of actually the old school television, terrestrial television system where we didn't have much choice. Everybody has to watch the same thing.
Yeah.
When you go to school, you congregate the workplace, whatever, you tend to have more topics to talk about.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Nowadays, everyone has so much choice. You watch what interests you, and if you have culturally because of your cultural background, you have different interests. Well, then you lose out on the chance to talk to people from other cultural backgrounds. But for me, growing up was I think the movie was called Sepet. I think Sepet was the
Yes,
first movie
yes.
by Yasmin Ahmad. Correct. That was a very good movie. Malay films, like I think Kabi makes a good point. The dramas were all very cliched, very not much interest lah. Except sometimes you just want a good shock to the system. You sit there and watch an
Yeah.
hour or so lah.
Because the
Doctor-
orange juice here and then got the billion project. Okay.
Yeah, they work like half an hour and then they can, or CEO.
And then they have
of Fortune 500
200,000 workers,
Yeah.
and then got time for one wife and 3 girlfriends, So,
Oh,
but growing up when I was still younger and then my sense of comedy was more slapstick, I think Scenario was a favorite.
yeah.
Yes.
Scenario.
It's not Pimai Pimai Tang Tu and
Yeah.
Yeah.
what's that one? Jangan Ketawa, sorry.
Yes.
Yes,
Photography.
yes.
Ketawa
Wow.
was and is still a favorite. But I think if you ask me about what my interest in other ethnicities, the arts were, it was always more towards music. For Malay music, is Search, Wings, the time was Exist. I think Butterfingers.
Oh, this one rock kapak one person, is it?
Yeah, so it's actually I don't know whether there's any new good Malay rock, but I have not heard of any for the past quite a number of years. It's all been pop. So
Yeah.
I've not listened a lot. Dayak songs is always the popular Berkikis Bulu Betis.
Yeah.
Hey, that's a fun song, okay? I love that song.
Yeah.
And then you pick up the line dancing moves.
Yeah,
and all that
pocho
lah.
pocho.
It's a nice way to hang out with everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. And maybe, just drawing from all this, perhaps, if the state or the government could they actually have a say in promoting more of these local movies and making it a bit more sort of when you promote it more, people are more aware of it and sort of want to watch it so that they don't feel left out when they talk to their friends. But now, because there's not much promotion, so we are left to our own, devices, and so we watch Netflix, we watch, online F movies and stuff like that. But if the state actually promoted all these local movies, perhaps they would have a bit of more impact on us, wouldn't it? Right?
I don't know, because for every sepet that's made, that's produced, there's like I think 10 chichat men that's produced. So
That's right.
The danger with promoting this is if you don't get it right the first 3 or 4 times, people get disillusioned and lose interest, and it reinforces the negative mindset even more, you see.
Yeah.
Of course, if you get it right and you promote a really good feel-good movie that people can relate to, then yes, it has a lot of not just initial benefits, but basically the benefits are multiplied as they go about interacting with society. It's sort of like a pay-it-forward kind of thing, and the sum then becomes greater than the whole in terms of racial integration.
Yeah. And I think, like the arts, the arts like movies, songs, languages, or even, Dayak paintings or sape, things like that, music. I think those are very important things because it is very universal. Everyone watches movies.
I just thought of this actually.
Yeah.
I just remembered that when I was younger, the cultural village was a lot more vibrant and active than what it is now.
Exactly.
And I think that it would be good if it could be restored to its former glory, and also that if for Sarawakian children below the age, I think maybe up to the age of 12 or 15, given free entry. It's a very good introduction for Chinese, Malays, all the other Dayaks. You go there, you spend a day there, and you get to know a very superficial level, admittedly, but you get to know that Sarawak is home to such a diverse range of cultures.
Yes.
Because the kids may not get this in schools nowadays. So everybody going to private school or vernacular school or government school is now very. I think the racial composition is very one-sided. But cultural village, we have that, and it's a very good starting point for our kids to know what Sarawak really is like.
Wow. Yeah, I totally agree with that. And even if they don't learn anything, at least they know what the houses look like, and that they can differentiate, because there's the tall one, there's the long one. And maybe they should have one whole subject just on the races in Sarawak. That's it. Like you actually have to learn what are the differences and the similarities. Okay, so we are running out of time. We are already at 1 hour, and I feel like we could actually go further. I've got actually a few more questions, but we can't cover them, and need to cut short this because usually for virtual things, people don't want to sit too long in front of their PCs. And I think your son is calling you all the time already, Emmerich, so I wouldn't take you away from him for too long. All right, so thank you guys for joining us today, and thank you to all the speakers. I think we've had a really, really deep conversation. There's a lot of things that we mentioned here that could actually work, and this is actually for the government to do, and if we could actually have them pick up even one of those things, I think it would be really good for racial harmony in Sarawak.
I just want to say one last thing. I think
go ahead.
It's not only, we cannot sit back and expect government to take the lead. I think for ourselves as well, from our heart, we have to always try and take the time to reflect. Not every day, but once in a while. And part of that reflection is to try and think back of our actions, our thoughts, our actions, and try to be aware of any subconscious biases that we may have. It may not work, okay? It may be a losing battle, but the attempt is, I think, is very important, because the attempt comes from your intentions, and if your intentions are sincere, then your attempts will be more likely to succeed.
Yeah, I really agree with that. I was just getting to that. Of course, I think in the beginning, the systemic changes need to be there. And then on a personal level, on ourselves, we need to realize that there are some filters that we put into our own perception of others based on our experiences. And you should be aware of what filters are you putting on, subconsciously or, unconsciously or, consciously that you're putting them on. So I agree with Emmerich. I think there's something that you need to step back and look at yourself. How are you actually treating others around you? Great stuff. And thank you to all the speakers for joining us today. Thanks, Fiona, Kabe, and Emerick. And thanks for all the points that you brought up. I think there was a really, really legit points. And thank you to the audience. We've got a lot on YouTube and also on Zoom here. Thanks for staying with us. Thanks for joining us today. For those of you who are fasting, selamat berpuasa, selamat berbuka later. And Selamat Hari Raya as well for those who are celebrating Hari Raya. And with that, see you for next Tuesday Talk Live. We are going to announce it the next date soon enough. And with that, thank you so much. Stay safe and have a good day ahead. See you.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
See ya.